That's kind of been the story for most of my life. I first started coming to Recovery Alive and joined a process group about a year ago. When I started my process group, I had never done any programs like this before, and I honestly thought to myself, I'm not going to have anything in common with these people. I thought it was just for drug or alcohol addictions, and I also thought, it's 12 steps, so it'll be 12 weeks. I was wrong about all those things. I was so broken when I started that I could not even say my name at the beginning of class without crying. I also had a hard time even saying that I was a believer in Jesus. In fact, as we progressed, the people in my group even stated to me that they were surprised that I didn't drop out early on. But what they didn't know is that I don't give up. I keep fighting, I keep coming, and I keep doing the steps one by one. I was very codependent, and I didn't even know what that word meant when I started. Eventually, I started healing and feeling better. 2023 was probably the hardest year of my life. I think I cried every single day. Towards the end of the year, I was feeling sick of being depressed and crying all the time. Friends who were believers kept saying Jeremiah 29:11, "For I know the plans for you, declares the Lord, plans for you to prosper and not harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." But I didn't have any faith that that was true. Daryl recommended Recovery Alive for me, and one night I took the hard step and reached out asking about the process groups. In October of 22, my husband and I separated. This was very hard on me. I was married for 16 years, and my whole life was turned upside down. But this was not the only thing I needed healing from. I had a lot of unresolved trauma from my childhood that I needed to heal from. My group leaders and my sponsor said that I should work on just healing from one of these things. But I'm stubborn. I was determined to heal from everything. I had spent too much time in my life feeling depressed, sad, angry, and I was just feeling desperate to feel better. Growing up, I was always led to believe that I was not good enough, and this spilled over into my adulthood. I had a very up and down relationship with my father. He was very controlling and narcissistic, although I didn't realize how bad it was until I was an adult. Everything had to have the facade of being perfect, even though behind closed doors they weren't. He used to make me redo my homework when I was in elementary school if it was too messy. I was always compared to my sister. I felt like she was their shining star and they were always proud of her, but never proud of me. When we were kids, I would have to babysit for her. And I would get paid for babysitting her, but she would get paid for being good. On my birthday, I would get birthday presents, like most kids, but my sister would also get birthday presents on my birthday so that she wouldn't get jealous. But of course, I would never get birthday gifts on her birthday. I was also not allowed to tell friends when I was going for my road test or interviewing for jobs so that I wouldn't have to explain myself if I failed. Or there was a time when I got sick on vacation and I wasn't allowed to tell my mom because she would think I was not having a good time. It wasn't just at home that I was made to not feel good enough. In school, I was bullied. I remember as young as second grade being bullied all the way back through all the way through high school. In fifth grade, kids blackmailed me because I accidentally called the teacher stupid. I had to steal change from my parents' change jar to pay them off. In sixth grade, I was made fun of all the time, and I don't even remember what for at this point. But a lot of kids wrote some many nasty comments in my yearbook that had to be professionally erased. In ninth grade, I was assaulted numerous times and harassed all year because I moved a classmate's book bag so that I could see the chalkboard. The feeling of not being good enough didn't stop after high school. In college, I was still bullied by classmates, and things were still up and down with my father. I just never felt good enough. To compensate for my feelings of not being good enough, I began to just work hard and tried to overachieve academically to prove that I was good enough. I did a year and a half of college before graduating from high school at a local community college. During college, I studied all the time and completed 2 bachelor's degrees in just 3 years. I also worked 2 jobs during college. Keeping busy and trying to overachieve became my coping mechanism for not feeling good enough. I became obsessed with always having to keep busy, even if I was still exhausted. And this only got worse after my separation from my husband. I also started apologizing constantly. Anybody who knows me still complains about that. And I'm sure I've said it to Daryl. After I got married, my father still tried to control me. My husband and I were looking to purchase our first house. We were excited and wanted to show our parents. My parents went through the house and they tore it apart, finding anything wrong with it that they could. They even tried to talk us into buying their house because it was more showy. I was also not allowed to disagree with him. One time he stopped talking to me for 3 months following the breakup of my sister's engagement because I said something he didn't agree with. Towards the end of the 3 months, my mother and my sister, his enablers, met with me and pleaded with me, just do what Dad wants so that we can be happy. But this wasn't even the worst. Late October 2012 was a day that changed my life forever. That was the day that my daughter, who was 4 at the time, told me that my father had done the unthinkable to her. I was completely devastated. To this day, I don't know exactly what happened, and I probably never will. Only God knows. But I chose to believe my daughter, and I had it investigated. I won't go into all the details, but I'm sure you can imagine it put a big strain on the relationship. I had flashbacks of repressed memories of it happening to me as well. We asked for space from my parents, but anytime we set a boundary, they continued to break it. After about 6 months, we decided to move to North Carolina to put a physical distance between us, but they still tried to contact us. I blocked phone numbers and changed email addresses, but that wasn't enough because he would contact other family members and my friends to contact me. At one point, he even hired a private investigator to try to find my address. I struggled for years with anger and hurt surrounding this. I saw several counselors for this, but none of it made me feel better. It was at this point in my life where I had lost all faith in God. My father was a self-proclaimed man of God. He attended church every day, and he said he believed in God with all of his heart. But he used the Catholic guilt on me a lot. Honor your mother and father, I was told all the time, as well as the death card. He would always say things like, you should make up with us because we're getting older. We don't know how much longer we're gonna live. After this happened, I felt like if he was such a man of God and a good man, then why would he hurt me so much and my daughter and do such a bad thing? And maybe the church and God weren't such a good thing after all. I stopped going to church for 12 years. Through all of this, I felt like I had to make things better with him though. And at times I would reach out and try to reconcile with him. But it always ended the same. I would try to make efforts, but it was never enough, and I always end up feeling bad about myself. Fast forward to 2023. My marriage had just broken up. They say you marry your father, and I guess in my case that was true. I didn't realize how bad things were until after I left, but I started seeing some of the signs in the last years of our marriage. He became unsupportive and he